It's an allegory again. The angels restoring what we burn away. The devil comes yearning for her eternal flame. Burning inside. Girl, what's burning inside?
Hey kid. Oh boy. Are we doing this? We are. 4:30 a.m. What do you... I need a little drink here. Seltzer, of course. Your throat okay? Yeah. Got a little frog in the throat this morning, but feeling great. Got up, did the witching hour thing, went outside, saw a triangle of stars in the sky. We're recording today. Sounds great. Holy tabs. Yep, these are what we're talking about today. What's that on screen? All great truths begin as blasphemies. Thank you, George Bernard Shaw. 42 seconds in. What's the relevance of 42? I don't know. My hitchhiker to the galaxy. You tell me. What is the answer to your own question? I got what you just did, you son of... Yeah. So, all great truths begin as blasphemies. And this is the greatest truth ever sold, episode 7. And we're going to do something a little bit different here. Oh, really? What are we doing? Well, we're going to go way up into the ether, maybe into the universe, the cosmos, if it really exists. Oh, boy. I didn't know where to put this episode. This episode just came out of nowhere. When I got the download, I said to myself, what am I going to do with this? Is this going to kind of open up an entire pod series? It's like, nope, this belongs here. Really? Yep. It belongs amongst the clouds. No, it belongs amongst conversation of man, really, and what we really are, man, woman, beautiful baby. The study of Jesus, Trump, just God. What is God? We've talked about a lot of things here. We have sexy voice, sexy thought, or interesting thought. We're going to grab your tinfoil caps, my friends. Anyone listening, if you are, thank you. God bless you. If this is the first episode you're listening to, I apologize in advance. This is going to be long. You say that about every episode. This might get long. There's a lot we have to cover. A lot. It's very important I lay this out methodically because I'm going to talk about a truth, my truth, not your truth, my friends. I'm going to literally construct a Z. Well, I was going to say, you already constructed it. Kind of. That's how this works. We're going to re-engineer it. And I'm going to give people an understanding of how my thought process works, how I re-engineer a thought that comes into my head, a transmission from somewhere. Do we know where it comes from? I do, but I cannot say it. I leave that there. Okay, I'm a little worried. Don't be. And hey, boys. Hey, ad lady. Hey, girl.
So what? You're not expecting me to come... You're talking about truth. That's where advertising comes in. It's all about a lie. But, I'm about the truth. So how are y'all doing?
Doing great. 3:13 in.
Enough with the time, Lit. Let me talk.
Oh, sorry.
This is an interesting pod episode. This is 7, right?
Yes, this is 7. Yeah, I believe so.
Well, it's interesting because you're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon. There's a couple more you probably have. You had delusions to go to 11 episodes.
Yeah, that was possibly it.
Yeah, well, you might want to wrap this up and go and bridge to another one because this should be a preview for the next one where you go really like, woo!
What?
You'll understand what I'm saying. But be careful here, boys. You need to make it very clear that you're not doing or constructing a truth for them. I just kind of said that, but let me drill the point home for everybody. And if anyone's listening to this pod episode and it's your first, oh boy, you better go to the first episode of this series, The Greatest Truth Ever Sold. And I know about selling truths, well, lies, because I'm in advertising.
Yeah, advertising.
We sell lies as truth, as a truth that someone could find themselves in.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Remember, boys, even though you're laying down a Z, excuse me, it's a little something in my throat.
Oh, God. Hey, girl.
Hey, hey, boy. Hey, big boy. I'll need you in a second. Oh, you stay over there.
Okay. That's MAGA guy. Good morning, MAGA guy. Good morning, guys.
Oh, you want me to talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Make sure you leave enough space, with your big Z. You're flapping around your big Z.
What?
Not you, big boy, but I understand why you went there.
Oh my God. Can we continue?
I will. Leave a space for them, because some people might find this interesting. Some people might find this off-putting. And some people are just eating pudding and just wondering what the hell they're doing here. But either way, that was funny.
Yeah.
You said something?
Nothing. Keep going.
Okay. Remember, folks, truth is what you make of it. There's information. You use that to attain knowledge. When you do something with it, an understanding of it, and then you have, say it with me, boy, wisdom. You have the truth, your truth. What you do with it, 555, all the time. I can do it too. What you do with that truth is up to you, but understand, don't ever let anyone give you the truth. Let them give you building blocks of the information and the knowledge even, but don't ever let them give you wisdom. That's for you to figure out. And if you don't believe me, let me prove really quickly what it means to have a truth be given to you by somebody else without, just ingesting it, not chewing it up and doing anything with it. Hey, big boy.
Hey, hun.
Oh, Ixnan, the hun a. Or unhey? Either way. Hey, big boy.
Oh, hi. Hi, boys. Hey, MAGA guy. Hey, kid. What am I doing?
Quick question. I won't need too much. This is one of those moments where you don't have to go all night.
Oh my God.
I just need you to really pop right here. Where do you get your truth?
Fox News.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Bye, boy. I'll go grab you in a second.
Oh, okay. I'll be over here.
See, boys.
Yeah, you made your point. Oh boy.
He gets his truth from Fox News. How well do you think that works? So, do you see what happens when you get your truth from someplace else? And no MS now. I'm talking about you too. All of you. It's about getting information. Trying to uncover facts. Conjure up some knowledge and then build or grow wisdom and blah, blah, blah. The truth springs up in your mind. And that becomes your reality. Or your perception of it. Something like that. Listen, I gotta go. Mama's hungry. I've gotta go have breakfast.
Okay. Thanks, MAGA guy. Thanks, ad lady.
You got it, boys. Good luck. And go, like I say to my big boy, go as deep as you need to go.
Oh, God. Oh, kid.
Bye, boys.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go have some breakfast. Mama's hungry.
Wow, 803N. Thanks, ad lady.
You got it.
I hope you all understand what I just did with the truth. What I'm about to lay out is my truth. I gathered a lot of information. I got a transmission that kind of like popped in my head from wherever. By the way, this episode is dedicated to Sabrina P. Who's Sabrina P? You'll find out in a second. Hey, girl, if you ever hear this, God bless you. Maybe I could be of help. Because if we leave the decoding of the universe to all the physicians and the cosmetologists or whatever the fuck, whatever those guys are that make shit up, make up beautiful things and refuse to take ownership for their creation. What? Yeah. Sometimes you need a dipshit up here in the Northeast with a connection to someplace else and then a connection to the internet to connect those two things and shine some light on you to have you have a different perspective of what this whole fucking thing is, this life. We've been dancing around a number of topics or a number of truths that I wanted to lay down in some of the early episodes about what the fuck this is, who we really are, and what we're really doing here. But I cannot come out and say the truth for you. You must put it together. But in this episode, this was a long-winded intro and disclaimer that I'm going to lay out in full detail something I believe that's going to sound fucking blasphemous. It's going to sound cray-cray. I even kind of said it to my, to our therapist. Yeah, to my therapist yesterday in an online therapy meeting or a session. And the look on her face was like, I shouldn't have gone right to the end. I should have built up to it, because if I tell you what I'm about to tell you, okay, you're going to fucking think I'm nuts. Too late. Okay. Oh, what's that? It's pretty. That's a brain. Well, energy that looks like a brain. It was an AI drawing that I had Gemini do, because I asked it to kind of unify the universe and a brain. And let me read something that I jotted down here. Oh, he's gonna. Oh, you've got notes. This is the only notes I've got, kid, or are the only notes. Here we go. We are in God's brain. Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. It is. And I'm going to really drive the point home how I got there. Because there are some people trying to decode this universe and what it is. The problem is, and I wrote here, the way we study the universe now in 2026 and for a long time is kind of like studying the brain, but without knowing what it really does. I don't get it. You'll understand. And the fact that someone is controlling it. Think about that. And then think about this. We are but a thought. I'm really confused. You won't be. All is mind, kid, and the universe is mental. I'll say that one more time. All is mind, and the universe is mental. I've heard that before. You have. It's one of the Hermetic principles, which I could not believe that. Is there a seventh one? I thought there was 7. I guess there's 6. I thought there was 7. Oh, well. Thank you, The Quest Within on Facebook. I'm borrowing your picture here because it's the first one that I care about, and we're going to be talking about. I couldn't believe that our what would you call her? She's not a psychologist. We'll call her a therapist. You know, she helps us with our mental health, kind of our mental health trainer. She's very much connected into the energies and a lot of, that's why we selected her. Yes, she's very connected and she understands our situation. And it feels great speaking with her about these things, and we don't feel judged. I can only imagine someone listening to this and going, oh my, all these pod series, how I talk, how I feel like I'm connected, and these energies I get from like even plants and from animals and birds and everything. And I feel these sensations and stuff. Some might say you're just cray. Okay, fine. But when you have feelings and thoughts that are so powerful, so real, and you know that they're powerful and real because you've removed as many impediments as possible, impediments to hold you back, your physical nature. In other words, you cleaned out your body, your true voice comes out. Hey, kid. And your thoughts are a lot more pure and without impediment. There's no guilt. There's no shame. It's the innocence meeting at the experience, right, Bono? It's when you have the free thinking will of a child where everything is possible. There's no shame or guilt. There's no stupid questions. There's no stupid thought. Everything is on your belly, metaphorically speaking, playing with Lego bricks of thought and building, just going free. The experience part, though, runs that experience of the innocence and kind of, there's a better way of saying it. Yeah. It kind of peer reviews it. It runs it through the cheat code. It ensures that we're not always up in the ether. It kind of takes the red heart-shaped balloon and it attaches it to the child's wrist. I'll leave that there. I think y'all get what that is, right? If not, let me say it this way. If everything is energy, like in your mind, you have to almost kind of ground it somehow in some sort of basis of reality, facts and stuff like that. And that's what the left brain, the lit, what I do, the experience comes in and starts comparing it to, well, the notes we've taken over the course of almost 50 years on this planet. And we start to kind of sift through it because a child thinks of some wondrous things, but it also fills in the blanks with some ridiculous ideas of what's going on around them. You need a little bit of experience to ground it and find a balance. And that's where at almost 50 years into my life, I finally found a balance between my left brain and what? Go ahead, kid. Oh, the right brain. Okay. I think they know who's talking now. They do. Left and right, the lit and the meta. And when you have a beautiful balance of the two, you're able to do some really amazing things. You're free thinking, but you can ground it in reality and facts and knowledge and wisdom to really give it a structure. and to take that red heart-shaped balloon of curiosity and wonderment that floats around free, but with a little string attached to the wrist to give it some grounding and allow it to not fly away. Make sense? Kind of. Okay, it will. So, and the idea here is that everything becomes, you know how they say, when you're a hammer, everything becomes a nail? Oh, yeah. Well, when you're a Lego brick, everything becomes a set that you want to attach yourself to. Oh, okay, interesting. Everything becomes Lego bricks of thought. You could construct it, deconstruct it. And this idea that we're going to leave the decoding of existence and the entire universe to all the physicians and the cosmologists is bullshit. People like me can talk about it. Doesn't mean you have to listen to me. Doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about, but I kind of do. And I'm going to lay that out now. I'm going to show you how two different people can get to a similar conclusion, but one of them is going to stay in the meta and one of them is grounded in the lit. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm in the meta and this individual that we're going to bring up towards the end of this is in the lit. And it's up to her to ground this and find out the true kind of proof, mathematical, behind it. But you're going to see how on a different level, you can get to the same outcome. She's walking there and taking notes. I'm getting there through the highway. You'll understand. I'm confused. You won't be. So what does the Hermetic principles have to do with this? Well, think of it this way. The very first one, all is mind. The universe is mental. I just told you, we are in God's brain. I mean, how else do you describe the universe? We're in God's brain. Because God is love, God is everything, God is energy, and we are created in their image. I mean, we are but a thought, are we not? Yeah, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's a complete oneness, a complete uniformity. And I've been struggling with the idea that we are all a collective consciousness. I'm like, that makes no sense. It does when you make it the collective consciousness inside of a brain, inside of someone's head, or an entity's head, God's head. We are collective consciousness, and we are being, well, I guess tested. You'll understand in a second. Okay. Remember, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players, right, my lady? But, and all the beautiful babies. But here's the thing. Where's that stage? Well, the real world. Is it? What's real? I don't want to go there, but okay. Dad, please don't. You'll lose me quickly. You are floating above and I'm below. Okay. Holding on by a string. You're not going to go anywhere, but just let your mind wander. Open up to a potential truth that is blasphemous. But when I lay this out for you, and I'm going to show you how I think, you might think I'm cray-cray, or you might think I'm brilliant, or somewhere in the middle. I am no different in the way I think than these physicians and these cosmologists, cosmetologists, whatever you want to call them. And I say that tongue-in-cheek. I know what the word is. I'm no different. They are constrained by their funding, okay, and their a need to prove materialistic. I'm coming at it from a different angle, but we're arriving at the same place. The problem is there's a reason why they can't figure this shit out, right, Sabrina? Is because they are too much on the lit. And most people, the older they get and the more funded they get, the more lit they need to be. They lose the meta, right, Picasso? They go their entire life trying to paint like, well, a master and not think like a child. And Jesus said, go ahead, kid, we must be like children. Something like that. And everything opens up. The Last Supper. Think about this. Thank you, Da Vinci here. All right. I'm going to, who's this guy? Hey, kid. Thank you, Jonathan Strock. Pathways to Spiritual Growth in Christ checklist. Well, here's the first checklist. Know thyself. Then know thy strength, thy purpose. Extract thy purpose. And then share thy light with the world. And then you, by default, will become enlightened by the experience of watching others find your light. Simple as that. And if this triangle of knowledge here, this guy here is the light, the sun, S-O-N or S-U-N, he is sharing his enlightenment to others, or his light. And in this moment is where he shared something they don't believe. Oh my God, someone's going to betray you. But I don't want to focus on that. I would like to have you focus back here. What's out there? Well, it's a landscape, a landscape. What's the difference between what's going on in here and what's going on out there? I mean, they're inside and that's outside. Within, without. I kind of see where you're going. But don't get ahead of me. As within, so without. Da Vinci knows what he was doing here. There's something outside. There's something. This is important. There's a lot going on here. He's going someplace else. He's telling them. Where is he going? Well, he's going to go on the hill. He's going to be going somewhere on the hill. I'm not saying this is where that is, but out there is the next step. Outside of this room is something more important. This story, the penultimate moment, if you think this is it, or what happened out there. And by the way, the vanishing point of all the lines is not his temple. It's back here. It's up there for a reason. Because the next part of this story that's important happens outside. Remember, folks, as above, so below, as within, so without. What goes on out there is going to be as important as what's going on in here. This is the precursor to what's going on out there. I'm a little confused. You won't be. And there's a way in some cases, there's a pathway that leads to somewhere. Da Vinci's already telling you. Here's the story here, and then it ends up out there. He ends up someplace else. He gets out of the escape room, so to speak. The escape room. He elevates his consciousness outside. He escapes the cage. He goes someplace else. And people don't understand the importance of having these three openings here, especially the one right behind Jesus, and the fact that all the lines, they don't lead to Rome, they lead to home, where he's destined to go, and we are all destined to go. This room is but a cage. It is but an escape room to leave, to escape from, and elevate up. That's what this is here. And in some ways, if you really wanted to know how far this path was, and you knew how wide this table was, let's say it's, I don't know, looks like it's 2.5 feet. Yeah, it looks like it. And you know this is 2.5 feet, and all the lines converge a certain way. And you can tell how wide this is, and this is, you can tell how far it is to get there. There's a calculation you can do. This point here that I'm pointing at, where this path is, or maybe even behind his head, you could actually figure out the distance based on all this. There's a calculation for that. They do that in the universe all the time. Who's they? The cosmologists and the physicians. They have points way, way ahead, far away, and they can figure out, because they know the distance between stuff here, and then they know there's a constant there. The universe isn't, wider here, shorter here, and then wider again here. It's constant. It's one long space, or so they think. Because, my friends, this is two-dimensional. This might look like it goes into the distance, but in reality, it's as close as his face is to the table is to his feet. This is all one level. It's 2 dimensions. But it's done so where the light hits you in such a way where it looks like it's 3 dimensions. And this is a dead giveaway. The way this was painted on the walls of the I think it was a cathedral, or no, it was a dining hall in a monastery. They said, whoever they is, the monks, that when you looked at this, it looked like it was cut into the wall, was creating a space. There was an illusion, a very well constructed illusion. Great job, Da Vinci. But then the illusion goes farther back. There's another space. He did that intentionally to show there's the space you're in now, observing this space, but there's a space out there. There's a space out there. There's something else that we're in. Everything that's going on is happening within another space. Even if you're not aware of it, I'm going to give you a hint of it. And this guy's talking about going to that space. Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. I don't need you anymore. That space is where we're going to end up. I'm very confused. You won't be. Escape rooms. What's the fun thing about escape room? We've never done an actual one. No. But they do that a lot in corporate. Yeah. Why? Because to build teamwork. And yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. I do a whole I'm going to read out a thought that I voice transposed while I was at work. Kind of a little funny kind of soliloquy of like why escape rooms are so important in corporate, or not important, but it's kind of like was the big thing to take your team out to an escape room. We've done these on the computer though. Yes. What's the fun thing about an escape room? Well, because you actually enjoy being trapped. Oh, I love that you went there. You accept it. You realize that you're not trapped, that there's a way out. And you're just, part of the fun is getting all the clues and putting it together and finding your way out of it. And when we play it on the computer, we're doing it by ourselves. But I can only imagine this is fun with other people, because everyone has different focuses. They're all focused on different things. You all have the same goal, but your perspective is different. And if you leverage everyone's perspective, right? Like in this episode, oh yeah, the Family Guy episode. It's one of my favorites. At least the beginning part. The rest of it, I don't like so much. This is the Baby Stewie one, where this crazy guy runs an escape room. And essentially they split up into two teams. Or is it three? I think it's two. Maybe it's three. I don't remember. It's three. Because it's them, and them. Right? Where does Quagmire go? I don't know. I don't know which one he goes to. Interesting. I don't think that's answered. Either way, hey, Seth MacFarlane, interesting. Where would you go? Because you're Quagmire, right? Seth MacFarlane? You're Quagmire. But when you think the world sees you as this guy, though your soul feels like this guy, and you want to find a girl like this that looks like this. This is all Seth MacFarlane tells the world what he's looking for, who he is. It's interesting, Family Guy. But you lost me already. Nah, we'll move on. The thing about this escape room thing is they leverage each other's perspectives and point of view. Everyone's looking in different places. And if you remember the episode, it's funny. The Brown family actually gets trapped. They're actually in a prison, whereas these guys, they get into the room, they have fun, they search around. I think Meg and Chris take edibles, and he tries to open up the desk by pulling on it and trying to break it, and eventually Stewie and Brian figure it out. We'll get into that in a second. It's very simple. They find the key. By the way, I love the shape of this, because we'll get into that in a second, a little bit later. This is the key. I don't know if this was intentional, but sometimes I wonder if Family Guy knows something we don't and is trying to tell us something through humor. But either way, in an escape room, you accept that prison, so to speak, because there's a way out. And if you do your due diligence, work together and leverage everyone's kind of strengths and their perspective, and some people are looking here, some people are looking there, you could find your way out together. Cool? Makes sense. Oh boy. So I wrote something called Escape Room, the Escape Room, Ep7. I'm not sure if we're going to call this God's Brain or the Escape Room. Either way. So let me read this. Oh boy, this is long. It is, but it's important. Are you ready? Oh boy. The following is a voice note transcription on my phone while at work, April 30th, between 6 and 7:30 a.m. You ready? Note to self, talk about our entire existence. I mean, we're doing that. And this entire universe being one big escape room. In this room, there are clues everywhere for how to leave it, right? There's clues everywhere. You just got to find the key, right, Stewie? The problem is once you're in, you cannot leave the way you came. Okay, you must leave through another door, because if you leave the way you came, you're just going to go into, folks, this is where you put your tinfoil caps on. This is where we go up into the ether. This is blast off. Think about this on levels. Again, this is my truth, not yours, but I'm providing you some building blocks to see if you could peer review what I'm about to say. Right, Sabrina? The problem is once you are in, who's that? And you'll find out. You must leave through another door, because if you leave the way you came, you're just going to go right back in. In other words, you must figure this game out, or else you keep coming back to complete it. You committed to it, kids, so figure it out. By the way, this is a little convoluted. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to try to read it as quickly as possible and get through it, but it's important. This sets up the whole thing. work with me on this one, folks. And I tried to kind of clean it up because when you voice transpose, blah, 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 sometimes the words get wonky. So how do we enter this life, this existence, this universe that we're in? I just told you, we agreed to go into it to play the game. In other words, folks, we are born. We come in through one door and we leave through another. That's life. Life is a game. It's a test. It's an experiment. It's about figuring shit out. It's about figuring out the puzzle, the riddle, using the clues that are in the metaphorical escape room. This world, the solar system, the decorations on the wall, and all the cosmic art, aka the universe itself that we are floating in, right? We're in here, and the universe is out there. Is all there to distract us from realizing that we are contained within this room. It could be a hologram for all we know. We cannot, and people think that there's light years away and all this stuff. I often say it's no different than the background of a video game, like Rainbow Road in Mario Kart. Oh, love Mario Kart. Yeah, like number 8, where you could stand there and look into the distance and sometimes things moving and there's Easter eggs and stuff, but you can't access it. You can only see it, and you can stare at it all you want. It looks real, it looks 3D, but it's in the distance, it's far away. And what's really going on is what's really, in the room here. You could look at it far away. Now you get it? Yeah, I get it now. You could look at all this all you want, but what's happening is where you are in the room. This is about as real as whatever's in your head and what you're willing to. If you ignore this, you still have to live in this. In other words, if I take away the universe, everything that's out there, are you still in the escape room? Of course you are. If I put no decorations on the wall of the escape room, it feels quite like a prison. I leave that there. But it's done in such a way so we forget that we're in a room, that we're in a prison because it feels so real. This prevents us from realizing we are in the prison and losing our minds, but they also provide very important clues to how to get us out of the room. Talk about the Family Guy episode, which is what we did. Baby Stewie, season 19, episode 19. 1919. Right, kid? 10-10 wins. Where Brian the dog and Stewie basically figure out a way out of the room by using the Fibonacci sequence as the code for the door. Sorry to spoil it for you folks, but I mean, come on. It's been how many years now? 10. And that always hit me funny because the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, is very prevalent in Renaissance art. Da Vinci used it all the time, and he didn't do it just because it was pretty. It held tremendous significance. And I put here, do Family Guy and Seth MacFarlane know something we don't? Are they trying to communicate to the world what they know, the true answer or not? There are so many examples of episodes where I'm like, oh my God, this is what I've been talking about in my pod. This is what I've been trying to figure out in my life. It's like, and some people might think you're crazy. It's a fucking kind of really off-putting for some people or really brilliant cartoon that's blasphemous. That's blasphemous. But man, sometimes the truth can be buried in the most interesting places, right, Stewie? Stewie, it might, right, Seth? It might all be a coincidence, of course. Or, well, if you believe like I do, there are no coincidences in the universe. Then much like I did, you pay attention. You might say, are you telling me that they're burying all these important clues and answers in the middle of a cartoon? That's insane. I know it's blasphemous. But hey, the answers lie in the most unexpected places, right, Stewie? You already said that. I did. If you know where to look, wink, wink. Who needs the key? Oh, Ken. When you've got the cheat code. By the way, the key, where is it? Why is this like this? I'm just saying. Talk about the episode of how everyone is looking in the wrong places. Like they're looking on the floor and then in the pockets and whatever. And they're getting distracted. But Stewie knows all along. He's a child. Like he doesn't get distracted by all the embellishments, all the bullshit. He goes right to it. He's like, duh. There's a key code thing on the door. They're looking for an actual key, a literal key. But the key is the code. He goes right to the meta. And of course, Brian takes credit for it. He doesn't even say it right. The Fibonacci. He was a guy from the Da Vinci Code. Go see the episode. It's funny. They go right to the origin of the energy. Children go right through the origin of the energy. They go instead of getting distracted by all the nonsense. They go right to the origin of the energy. Triangle, pointing up outside, out there. I think you're stretching it. I'm not. They go right to the origin of the energy. They see through the noise. That's children. That's innocence. Experience gets in the way, like his parents and his siblings. And since he's also a genius and has created many forms of energy manipulators, in other words, machines that can alter space and time, he knows there needs to be a code to unlock things. There's a sequence, a formula that the universe is built upon to leverage to for your own exploits. So he goes right to the Fibonacci sequence. Y'all could look that up. My friend, that sequence and the golden ratio is literally the cheat code to understanding how the universe is constructed. Constructed. It's not born. We go into that later. You could also add 369, 71240. Really, 71240 is how we experience it, but the universe is that, right, Tesla? Understanding energy, resonance, and frequency. Thanks, Tesla. E equals mc squared. Thanks, Einstein. And x plus y equals z. Thanks, socialism. Not Mondami. Not Mondami. S-O-U-L. And you've got all that you need to understand what the fuck is going on here. We good? Yeah. Da Vinci knew that too. By the way, there's also a Family Guy episode about Da Vinci. Yeah, it's really good. It's great. He used it prominently in all of his work. Last Supper, anyone? I see why you went there. Yeah. Some people theorize. When I'm getting these thoughts at work, folks, it's just pouring in. It's a transmission. This was the transmission. And I just kind of put words to the energy. I don't hear voices in my head. I'm not like Seth MacFarlane. Literally. Who literally hears the voice of Stewie in his head. Go ahead. Anyone want to counter me on that one? He literally hears the voice of Stewie in his head. Like if he's talking to the barista and he makes a corny joke that he sounds like Peter. And then the voice of Stewie in his head probably wakes up and goes, oh, that was so corny. Or whatever the fuck like the British voice is. That's how he thinks. I don't hear voices in my head. I get energy. And then I transpose them. In this case, I attach words to them. This was the transmission, what you're hearing now and seeing. Our ability to learn something, enjoy each other. We good? To learn. That's why I've got to read this whole thing. I apologize in advance. But this is the transmission, and then we're going to break down the transmission. I've already figured it out here, and then you're going to see how I think, how I go and say, wait a minute. I've already got the answer. I've got to re-engineer it. This is how my brain and my experience works. This is my Stewie moment. To learn something, to enjoy each other's companies, build bonds, work together on important tasks, challenge ourselves, our intellects, our minds, our curiosity, our imagination. In other words, have an experience. Right? Our ability to think outside of ourselves and see things for what they are, not what we want them to be. And at the end of the whole thing, you have an experience. So then tell me about it. How'd it go, kid? What did you learn? What light did you get from it before you leave? What legacy you're leaving behind? Think about why any escape room seems to be one of the most common excursions that any corporate environment gravitates to. At least that's what I've observed. In an office, a bank branch, a sales team, any place where teamwork is essential for success and for the company to thrive. You've got a frustrated, overworked manager, middle manager, who realizes his equally frustrated and overworked team wants to kill themselves on the meta, kill each other, also on the meta, and most importantly, work together to kill him, possibly the lit in the meta. He then realizes, hey, let me put them in a big room to work together, do something productive, and build bonds in the process. Brilliant. And then after they're done reading Who Moved My Cheese, and get on the conference call later, they're going to tell me how great the escape room was and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. Y'all are not getting any raises this year because AI is going to replace half of you. We'll talk about that in another conference call. So instead of working together, nothing, to kill him, they can go into the escape room and work together to kill the puzzle. Hey, Michael Scott, what can go wrong? Sounds corny, I know. But how much different is it from real life? If we can't learn to live and work together and coexist here in hell, essentially, how the fuck can we do it out there? If we can't coexist here, how are we going to be able to do it out there? Out there. Great question. wherever there may be. Well, if you believe we're in heaven or utopia or nirvana, then there is a there, aka some other place or some other existence or state of being. We must first earn it before we can experience it. And part of earning it is to understand who we are, why we are important/valuable, and then prove that by value by putting our importance into play to test and demonstrate that value to others. All while having an experience that teaches us something and leads to an enlightenment that will set up whatever comes next. Have fun, kids. The next part, I'm going to get to in a second. What do you think? I think you're crazy. We're going to get to that next part in a second. Let's go to Fermi's paradox, or the Fermi paradox. I've heard of this before. Can you read that? Okay. The contradiction between the high statistical likelihood of extraterrestrial civilizations given billions of stars and planets, well, if you believe they really exist, and total lack of evidence for or contact with them. Coined by Enrico, that's good enough. It's essentially saying, if the universe is this vast, this big, this massive, and there's so many planets, like billions and billions of planets. Hey, boys. Hey, Bernie. I don't know where you're going here, but you're telling me the universe doesn't exist. Yeah, you're failing. Yeah, this Bernie impression sucks. Sorry, kid. Oh, okay, I gotta go. Yeah, it's time for you to go in many ways. That's wrong. Well, the Fermi paradox. Thank you. I forget where I got this somewhere in Reddit, Cool Guides or whatever, and it has a lot of theories about this. Let's cover a few of them real quick. Our wires are cropped. Earth is a fishbowl. Oh, is it? Or an escape room. In this scenario, alien civilizations know we exist. They simply watch our development from afar to let us evolve without influence, ultimately forging our own path. They watch us from afar while we're in a fishbowl. In a fishbowl. Huh. Okay. Then there's the theory of evolution. Space is too vast and signals take too long. Really? You think space is too vast? So large. If we beamed of transmission, it would take forever. I mean, this doesn't make any sense, folks. But I get it. Oh, they are already here? Hey. It's silly. It would be silly to presume that all life is similar to Earth's. Perhaps beings are so different they could not register to us, even if they were under our noses. In other words, they're in a different dimension. We'll get into that in a second. They're on another energy plane, another frequency. Like we're all in the same television. We're just on a different channel. I understand. I didn't make that up. Okay, that makes sense. But I'm just saying, different frequency, different dimension, right? They use tech to spy, whatever. We are the aliens. Yeah, we've thought about that. Yeah. That water is the alien. Has anyone ever thought about that? That water, if you are looking for signs of life and you need water, maybe water's the alien. And maybe Earth got hit by a massive snowball a long time ago in the cosmic snowball fight. Happened to melt. And then, life sprung up here, and then, here we are. And until this dries up, and there's another snowball that hits another planet, and so forth and so forth. Life is extremely rare. This drives me crazy. It is pretty easy to replicate humans. We did it twice with our ex-wife. We did. Not to say it's easy. Well, yeah, it was not easy for her. I get it. But this idea, life is extremely rare. I mean, you just need water and the right atmospheric conditions. And people start going into this, it's a 1 in a billion or 1 in a... Stop it. You're sciencing the fuck out of it. This makes no sense, Fermi. This makes no sense. What's Occam's razor? Read that. Occam's razor. A philosophical problem-solving principle recommending that when faced with competing hypotheses, one should select the solution with the fewest assumptions. In other words, the simplest explanation is usually the best. I mean, Fermi, how many of these do we need before you get to a painful truth? What's that? That this is fake? No. A long time ago, that Star Wars is real? Not quite. We'll get to that in a second. Actually, we'll do this now before we go back to this. What do you know about this scene right here? Oh, yeah, it's in episode 2. Master Obi-Wan has lost a planet. Oh, and they all laugh at him. Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, he's searching for a missing planet. He's like, it should be right here. Where is it? He went to the Jedi library, and back then, instead of opening a book, he's got a big fucking hologram. A big hologram. Interesting. No, don't go there yet. A big hologram all around him, and he finds himself in the middle of it. Remember that. And the planet is missing. He's like, well, what the fuck? And then he goes, Yoda's teaching the kids, and the kids are kind of like, they got their fucking toilet bowls on their, their little chamber pots on their head, and they're learning. And a beautiful thing happens here. Lost a planet, Master Obi-Wan has. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. And they're all laughing at him. This is funny. He's like, you motherfuckers. He comes back together. But really, what happens? Well, one of the kids says something brilliant. Well, he Occam's razors the fuck out of it. He basically says to him, or to Yoda, someone erased it, kid. It's not there, not because it literally isn't there. Someone erased it from the file. And because this guy, the wisdom, the experience, says, well, that's impossible. You can't, no one can have access to that and erase. Don't worry about how they had access and erase. Understand what you're being presented with. It's not there. You know it should be there, so it's not. So someone else erased it. The innocence showed the experience, the wisdom that they're looking for. He now has to go prove how it happened. I'm doing this in this episode. I am like the younglings. Oh, you're going to get slashed by Anakin? Probably. And I'm showing the physicians and cosmologists and the rest of the world the hologram and the situation we're in. But now you're losing me. In other words, Occam's razor, kid. Don't fight what is right in front of your fucking face. Bye, kid. Bye, kids. We'll get to this in a second. Let's go back here. And I put warning. This next part is a bit confusing, convoluted. Proceed with caution. I'm just going to read it. Do with it what you want. You're going to understand what I'm setting up here. By the way, have you ever asked yourself what it means to be? Like just be, to exist. Well, it's an interesting thought. Oh, I see what you did there. It's an interesting thought, what it means to be. Literally, that's what it is. Confused? Don't be. Oh, it's coming full circle. It is. We are but a thought in God's mind. Existence just is. Just like with Obi-Wan, the planet's just missing. It's gone. There's nothing Obi-Wan could do to bring that planet back into his hologram. He now has to go figure out what happened. He needs to leverage his experience to prove the wisdom that was shared with him and that he saw with his own eyes. He still needs proof. Can you imagine? Welcome to Cosmology. You fucking know the answer, but you still need proof to get the funding. Nah, something like that. Don't be cynical, kid. Nah. But to prove it, you have to test it. You do that through putting it into an experience. Then validate that existential experience through a thought or a resonance from what you experienced and analyzed it. I'm confused. You won't be. You take in information and create a hypothesis from it. That's what I'm doing now. And then answer your own question. That's called enlightenment. Obi-Wan was on his way to being enlightened to what was going on. And boy, Anakin really took it out on the kids for showing him the truth in episode 3, but that's a whole other thing. In order to do all of that, we must be separate from each of the first two parts. We must stay on the other side of the equal sign. We must be here. This is the enlightenment, folks. The other side. This is enlightenment. That's why the sun is rising here, folks. Or setting. Technically, it's setting, technically. And this is not the actual, this is a cleaned up version, by the way. Anyone that's yelling and screaming, that's not the actual version. I know, I use the clean up version because it's better. It's cleaner. Just imagine this is what it was. And highly probable that it was very bright and colorful. Now it's a little bit more dim, a lot more dim, and falling apart. Much like in physics, with physicians, we must always be the observer. We must be over here observing this. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. Well then, that's consciousness. We're on the outside looking in. We're on the outside looking in. Or we're on the outside in the fourth wall looking in to the space. That's how he painted it. Do y'all get it? Shit. Where am I? Now. We are an observer on the other side of the glass, observing and experiencing. And experience, whatever. Well, how do we connect with that experience? We connect to the equipment, the entity that exists within the experience, and receive vibrations, resonance through a sort of mystical thread connecting the entity to the observer on the other side. That's life. In other words, folks, this is us. There's stuff going on here. All the world's a stage and everything. There's things going on. We're observing the experience through his eyes or their eyes or whatever. We're within this space, but we're really like the monks would be on the outside of the space, observing this space. But we're really in this space. And there's something outside. If y'all don't get it, you will. Trust me, I'm building towards something. So to recap, we are in a sort of escape room, observing ourselves from the outside of it. Directly impact, but we're within it, or it's within us. Directly impacting the experience from the inside and seeing how we do. Hopefully we get something out of it. Who knows? Ready to play? You go first. Okay. By the way, a quick note on change. In one of our episodes, this is important. We talked,
Boys, do you really need to do this one?
I do.
Okay, hurry up. You're going long, giggity.
Thanks, girl. We talked about the book, Who Moved My Cheese? It's basically one big clusterfuck of corporate nonsense, conveniently placed into a small little handbook for you to ingest or get force-fed so that you could adapt to what's coming down the pike from above. My apologies for sounding cynical and a little bit bitter, but I think you know how I feel about that shitty book. Not well. The biggest problem I have with the book is not about the book itself, believe it or not. It's what the book teaches us to do. This is important, folks. Because it holds back not just who we are, but what we think about ourselves and what we do with the things that we find ourselves in after our minds are reprogrammed and indoctrinated. It retards our vision of ourselves and our importance. Talked about that already. Or the behaviors it seems to conveniently glorify. No, I'm not talking about completely acquiescing and surrendering to the corporate monster and giving into fear, loathing on a daily basis. Is this really part of this episode? You'll understand at the end. Or getting suckered, conned into destructive dog-eat-dog competition to destroy your own peers and appease the corporate monster. No. It's more than that. What I'm talking about right here is the fact that it rewards or at least prioritizes adaptation to change. What's wrong with that? I'm being facetious. Well, listen, fish. You're about to understand. What? Nothing. My friends, adaptation to change eventually leads to extinction. Ask Darwin what an animal that adapts versus an animal that evolves does after about 1 million years. Well, you could only study one of those animals after about 1 million years if they've chosen to evolve the entire time and not adapt, because the animal that chose to adapt can never last even half that long. They cease from existing. They can't continue to catch up. Adaptation is changing to change. It is making adjustments after the fact so you could level up with a new state of being, hoping to keep up. When you adapt, the power is always outside of you. That's what Jesus was telling you. Don't do that, he said. You don't ever want to give up that power. The power is given to the change or the agent of change, the company. You're always their slave, their servant. They tell you to jump, you adapt and ask how high. Right? You never have the power they do. Now, what is evolution? Evolution is a literal state change in anticipation of the change. You do it well ahead of any of the changes, well before you are forced to. You take the power back and say, no, I will become stronger. I will evolve. That's what Jesus was telling you, to evolve your thinking. I will force myself to get better and more resilient, more agile, more adept. So when change happens, I am already ahead of it, and everyone else who chose to adapt is chasing me because I'm free thinking. I am not, even though I'm tethered to a wrist, it is my own wrist, and I ground my thinking, but I am free to be, free to think. So long as I'm the one everyone is chasing, no one will ever be in my way, not even change. I will be free to be. And because I will be ahead of the curve and ahead of the change cannot ever change me. So I don't have to embrace change. Fuck change. It will only validate my evolution and fortify my strength. So long as I continue to evolve when need be and never adapt, I force change to have to adapt to me. If it ever wants to get me. Sounds corny, but it's true. And if there was a book out there that the corporate monster would give you so that you could not only retain your power while not giving up your agency and authority, and also solidify your ability and freedom to evolve as need be, then they would essentially be showing you the cure to their bullshit. They'd be giving you the cheat code, and they ain't going to do that. They would be relinquishing their own power to keep you strong. That's not what the corporate monster wants to do. They need you to stay the slave, the servant. Replace the corporate monster, folks, with society, with government, with your church, with a denomination, that your synagogue, with any power broker, with the deep state. If you know the answer and you've got the key to get out of the escape room, whether it's a literal escape room or a metaphorical escape room in your mind, where you could accept other truths and be free and go outside and rise up, then you're fully in control. They're not. Whoever they is, I'll leave a blank space there. They would be that's not what they want to do. They need you to stay the slave, the servant, subservient to them. They just need you to not fall too far behind. Just enough to keep you going. A little medicine, never the cure. Just strong enough until they can replace you with someone or something stronger and more complicit to their whims. AI. That's kind of cynical or true. My friends, to go back to the escape room analogy of what life is, the only way you survive in this escape room of life is to secure your own identity. Find a purpose that can drive you and provide value to yourself and to others so you could become valuable and leave a legacy. You then get to a point where you are strong enough, wise enough, and ready to discover the cheat code that you always unlock, that always allows you to unlock the door and leave the room when you choose. It is only through evolution of mind, body, and spirit that we rise up and elevate to a point where we earn our way out of that room. Because the room, much like the change, or like change is our captor, it acts as our prison because we are not strong enough. Remember the theme of this whole thing, the greatest truth ever sold. I asked 3 questions. We are not strong enough to make it our bitch and take control, to unleash our true greatness. Once we do that, nothing could hold us back from our true freedom. Adaptation is failing, then fixing. Evolution is being impeded before breaking through. Don't fail, evolve, then break through. Peace out, my friends. Hope this was of value. Oh, interesting. Cool. We get it now? Now let's get into this. Oh my God, we're almost an hour in. I've told you, this is going to go long, giggity. What's the precession of the equinoxes? Well, we talked about it in another, the sun was meant to rise. It's the idea that just like there's 12 zodiac signs, or 12 months, the zodiac, that the earth wobbles in a 26,000 year cycle, or roughly that, caused by gravitational torque of the sun, the moon, and blah, 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 blah. In other words, as it's spinning, wink, wink, through this galaxy, right? It's wobbling. And all the projections in the universe that's all around it, all these beautiful pictures and stars, it changes, it adjusts, right? The message changes. Why would the message need to change? Well, where are you in the act, in the play? the background's got to change, right? The set has to change to accommodate what's going on and help you. This sounds like a weak premise. Not really. It needs to change to fortify what's going on the stage and to give some clues to the audience and to the people on the stage of what's going on. Oh, where am I? And it's a 26,000 year, and it's like here. It's like spinning around, and I love this kind of globe that's around like it's like we're in a sort of escape room, though this should be much bigger, like the size of the solar system, roughly. What? Yeah, you'll understand. And as this spins, we go into different ages. We're moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And if you believe, like I do, that stars, the sun is a star, it is. The sun and all the stars emit light, emit energy. And well, the sun has impact on our life on Earth, right? Yes, it does. Very strongly, it does. It is, well, the tether to life on Earth. Without it, good luck. Well, you don't think the stars and the constellations have the same thing? Of course they do, but at a different way. They're sending us more information, a different type of energy, knowledge. And I'm not saying they're sending us the script, but they might be predicting or previewing what comes next. It's the stage that's coming. It's like the stage in the back of the play changes. That's the precession of the equinoxes. And it's almost like we're stuck in an escape room in a stage where the stage keeps changing and the stuff keeps, the world keeps spinning. You're losing me. Yeah. And it started at the age of Leo, at least because it goes backwards, right? Then Cancer, then Gemini, blah, blah. So we came out of Aries into Pisces. Now we're going to Aquarius. Well, what do we know about Leo? Yeah, that's what the Sphinx was most likely pointing to back in Egypt. And I hypothesize or theorize that in this game of life, in this level 1 of the season, this first year of the precession, that human beings erected a monument to Leo to kind of kick it off and show everyone else where we started. Because I don't see anything on this planet that precedes, it's all pyramids and fucking Sphinx and monuments to the gods, to the sun. I don't see anything. I don't see any monuments to dinosaurs. I don't see any monuments to aliens necessarily. Well, man, that's a whole other thing. So remember this. What's that? Did Stephen Hawking, this is where we get geeky and where I start to flex a little bit. And I start to reverse engineer all the stuff I laid out now. An hour, 2 minutes in. Read that. Did Stephen Hawking ever say that if we are living in a simulation, the universe would have to have a glitch in it to prove that? But I thought you don't like simulation. I don't. Simulation implies that we're in a computer. We are not in a computer, folks. We're in a brain. God's brain. And we're experiencing it through our brain, the inverse. So we have inside of us a mini version of God's brain. Outside of us, we are in God's brain. We're in the escape room. Y'all don't see it yet as above, so below, but inverted. It's a perfect symbiote. Whatever. We move on. And this simulation or this brain that we're in, Stephen Hawking, very smart guy. Was this the universe as a hologram? And we'll get to that in a second. He did not famously focus on glitches as proof of simulation. He was open to the possibility that our universe is a form of simulated reality or hologram. Right, Sabrina? You got to meet this guy or talk. He cited you. Who's Sabrina? You'll see in a second. He and other researchers argued that if the universe is a simulation, it would likely be constrained by mathematical limitations appearing pixelated at the Planck length, which acts as a fundamental limit. There's a lot of limits, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of constraints, a lot of walls in this universe, things you can't break through. The speed of light is one of them. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And well, this pixelated idea is that at some point in time, you're just going to get pixels, little pieces, the very smallest particles at the Planck length, which is the smallest distance ever that can be measured before you have nothing. That in and of itself should act as kind of, if you Occam's razor the fuck out of this, but you need more proof. So essentially, and he talks about a physical constant. Where is it? Brains in jars. That's funny. That's funny on so many levels. He doesn't talk about it being a glitch. He talks about, it's a physical constant that was, it's here somewhere. Damn it. Where he talks about if we start seeing a drift in a physical constant, something that we know to be true and self-evident, not self-evident, but like the effects, space of time and gravity, and even just like something as simple as the speed of light. If all of a sudden the speed of light changes or is not constant, there's a drift, then it might be a hint. Wait a minute, something weird's going on here. There's a better way of saying it, but he talks about a drift in a physical constant. That means a value assumed to be fixed, such as the speed of light or gravity, is slowly changing over billions of years, causing fundamental rules of the universe to shift gradually. In other words, there are no laws then. It keeps changing. That's something's weird about that. That's glitchy. That would lead someone to think there's something weird, something outside of the game, of the escape room, is altering what's going on inside. Imagine if you go inside the escape room and all of a sudden things are changing. You're going to think this is weird. Someone outside of it is doing it. It's not a self-contained existence that has rules and structures that make it autonomous and it works on its own. There's something outside of it that's controlling it. A simulation. I'm going to prove that there's plenty of these. Well, I don't know if I'll prove it, but can gravity, this is my mind. Now we're tinfoil caps, kids. This is my mind and how I think. Again, I'm not using AI to come to a conclusion. I'm using AI to reverse engineer it to kind of prove it and lay the building blocks down. I ask, can gravity itself be a drift of a physical constant by the very nature of how it operates? Gravity itself is a proof. I've often said gravity is the tip of the iceberg. The real thing that powers gravity is underneath the water on the other side of the stage. That's why we can't understand it. Get rid of that. Your question touches on the frontier of theoretical physics, where the concept of gravity as fixed fundamental constant is increasingly challenged. In other words, it's not. It's not fixed and fundamental. It adjusts. Why? Because the fixed and fundamental part of it is in another dimension. It's outside of the game. Like a tip of an iceberg. The meat of it is on the other side. It's the one thing that connects this universe and powers it on the other side. Remember, if we study the universe as, like we would study a brain, not realizing what it does and that something controls it, we don't realize something's controlling the universe. We're not ever going to get the answer. We're never going to understand it. Bye. And gravity, which holds the whole thing together, should be screaming at us, giving us proof of what I'm saying. It's not constant. And people are starting to come around to it. But much like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Jedi library, the answer is right in front of your face. Even a child or I can tell you, but you need to go prove it. That's fine. I'll meet you there. Well, I'm going to stay where I am. You're going to meet me here with the proof. I'm already telling you what it is. Gravity's proof that we're in a simulation environment. I don't like simulation. We're in an escape room in someone's head, God's head. I asked again, complete separate from any theoretical constant, can gravity itself be a drift of physical constant by the very nature of how it operates? In other words, completely separate from any theoretical constant and only relational to anything that passes through it. In other words, it's relational. It's not impacted by anything else. It is and always will be. kind of what God is? It's fascinating thought that aligns with some of the most radical leftists. No, not quite. Oh no, it's a Fox News. The emergent gravity theories. Essentially, you are asking if gravity is not a fundamental thing with its own fixed constant. I'm not asking, I'm saying. Rather, a dynamic byproduct of objects moving through space-time, or a dynamic byproduct of a force that exists without the universe that's holding it together. Nothing could expand unless it has a space to expand within. What is that space, folks? If this room kept expanding and this table kept getting longer and adding more people to it, maybe Mary Magdalene, who's missing from here. Okay. What is it? It's right up against the wall. We're stuck in here like a womb. You got to go outside, kid, or you got to move the walls. Well, there's something else then. There's something else. Gravity is an entropic force. Some physicists like Eric Verland argue that gravity isn't a fundamental force at all. Instead, it's an entropic drift. In this view, gravity is what happens when information associated with the portions of material bodies changes. It's relational because it only exists as a statistical result of a matter interacting with the vacuum. In other words, you only know it exists because of what it does, not what it is. You can't prove what it is. You can only see what it does. You're seeing its entropic nature. You're not seeing its order where it's grounded. Because if you knew how it's grounded, its order, you'd know the origin point of it. You only see the vanishing point of it. The tip. Just the tip. And because you need to prove and science the fuck out of everything, and you need to think about it, you can't get the thought of the universe through your head without leaving it in pieces. Giggity. That's why you can't realize a truth because you think it's blasphemous. But I won't go there anymore. And then it goes, blah, blah, blah. Gravity's a drift of, if gravity's a drift of a constant, it suggests that what we call gravitational constant might actually be a local average. In this scenario, this gets geeky. Basically what it's saying is we're measuring how it's acting on things. We're not measuring it. It's like trying to understand the hand by measuring the fingerprints. Good luck. Gravity is the hand of God. And all you got is the fingerprints. Y'all know what I said. Mach's principle. Your idea echoes Mach's principle, which heavily influenced Einstein. It suggests that the inertia of an object, how it resists motion, is not an inherent property, but is determined by the sum of the total of all other matter in the universe. In other words, it's like one big fucking ocean. You move one way, and here it impacts everything in one way, shape, or form. If you removed all other matter, gravity and inertia would cease to exist because there would be nothing to be relational to. You get rid of the ocean, you don't have an iceberg, you have a mountain. And it doesn't move. Sometimes the mountains will crumble to the sea, like an iceberg. The drift problem. The main challenge with gravity, do y'all understand? No? I'm confused. You won't be. The main challenge with gravity being a drift or a pure relational effect is precision. So far, our measurements of gravity, and what do we use to measure it? Machines that we create to find out what we're looking for. Not machines that randomly tell us something new. They're just built so they could confirm what we're looking for. It's like trying to construct something to prove your answer, as opposed to something that will, maybe AI will be that thing. Of gravity are incredibly consistent across vast distances in different environments. Of course, it's consistent because that's how the game is rendering it for you, consistent, because we're in a consistent place. We are the vanishing point. It all has to be consistent to converge on us. How consistent would it be if you were 100 light years away on another planet? You don't know. If it were I don't get it. In other words, if you're measuring something from home plate and you're seeing the entire field, right? You've got the best. What's that vantage point from right field? Left field, how does it change? And now you're really confusing me. In other words, your measurements are only as good as your perspective and the equipment you're using to take in that energy from your point of view and doing something with it. But if I change your perspective and change your tool, so now instead of having a bat, you have a glove. So you're receiving it, not sending it, or vice versa. There's a different perspective. I'm really lost. Somebody knows what I'm saying. And what's the consistent part there, folks? The baseball. That's the only constant in this whole game is the baseball. It's always moving. The game is about the ball, not the bat, not the glove, not the bases. It's the ball. But if gravity's the ball, you have no idea what the ball is and what it's constructed of because you keep hitting it and catching it and throwing it. It keeps moving. If it could only be still and you could analyze the ball, you'd understand what I'm saying. In short, you are describing gravity as an emergent phenomenon. It treats the constant as a secondary effect of a deeper relational process, like the wake behind the boat rather than the water itself. Correct. But I argue it's also the ocean. You just can't see it. I'm really confused. Okay. What is the fifth dimension? The fifth dimension is a theoretical additional spatial dimension beyond the 3 dimensions of space, X, Y, Z, and the one of time or consciousness, 4D. That physicists or physicians, particularly in string theory and Kaluza-Klein theory, use to unify fundamental forces like gravity and electromagnetism. In other words, here we are, inside here, this box, inside a bigger box, the fifth dimension. We, the consciousness, is within this space, within these two boxes. But the game's here. The escape room within a space. What's that space? If we have 3 dimensions here and the 4th dimension of consciousness, well, the 5th dimension's out there, right? That's where gravity comes from. Gravity comes from the outside. It's holding together the cube, the escape room that we're living in, the universe. It's holding in the thought. It's like the cranium that holds in the brain, that holds in the thought. Or maybe it's the brain. Who knows? I'm really confused. You'll be fine. What would happen if there was no limit to the speed of light? I'm building to something here, folks. The universe would experience instantaneous causality, eliminating in other words, it's everything all at once. Have fun. Eliminating the distinction between cause and effect, causing special and general relativity to collapse. Everything would happen all at once, beginning, end, middle, instantly. There's no time, there's no space. It's all there right now. It becomes Spaceballs on steroids, that moment with Rick Moranis. What does that say here? Ignore this. This is for later. Time as a concept would cease to function traditionally, as all events would appear instantaneously regardless of distance, because the light already got there. I do argue, not in this episode, that light is already there. It's whether or not it's activated. The script is already written. The stages are already planned. Everything is there. It's a matter of time before it gets unveiled onto here for you to experience it, but it's all created always, all the time. If the world's a stage, and we're on that stage, experiencing it, this entire existence is already planned, constructed, ready to go. It's just a matter of time. If we put the whole thing up there, all the characters, all the sets, all the dialogue, and they say the dialogue all at once, and the play happens like that, it's no different than what I'm talking about up here. That's why we need timing and rhythm and all that stuff. And the speed of light gives us an indication of how that happens. You lose space and time and energy. Without a finite speed, electromagnetic waves cannot exist. Everything falls apart. The breakdown of E equals mc squared goes away. X plus y equals z goes away. Because you can't even differentiate between the existence, the experience, and the enlightenment. It happens all at once. Gravity would cease to exist as we know it because it would not have a propagation delay. In other words, what is it going to be pulling and pushing on? Well, pulling. If everything's already there. Right? Stars would burn out fast. It would just be complete meltdown. Without a limit on speed, causality, the idea that something, the x plus y equals z, the idea that causes happen before effects would be destroyed, leading to logical paradoxes. Everything would be a paradox. Everything would be a paradox. Right? So I wrote, And I knew that. I just couldn't articulate it as well as this. Remember, speaking of causality, AI helps shrink space and time between me, the X, and the Y, the knowledge, the currency of that energy. That's the beautiful thing about using AI. It shrinks the space and time between me and getting the knowledge so I can present it to you as wisdom. Well, my wisdom. Building blocks for you. And that's how I leverage AI, just so you know. Okay. So what would happen if we halved the speed of light as we know it now? See, this is how a child thinks with some experience. Having the speed of light would fundamentally rewrite the laws of physics, just like eliminating the speed or the limit, making the universe a much smaller, slower, and stranger place. Kind of like in slow-mo. Because c is the universal speed limit. And a core constant in Einstein's equations, changing it impacts everything. How much? So the most important letter in that entire equation is C. Because if you can't see it, you'll never get the energy. C is the medicine. Or the sugar with the medicine. I messed up. Energy is great, but what's E on itself, on its own? You need to prove it. Well, you got mass. Okay, now you just made a bunch of building blocks, bricks. That's great. Big deal. Now do something with it. Move it around and get an enlightenment and experience out of it. That's C. C is the most important letter in this equation. Or C squared. Because it allows the play to happen. Y'all don't get it yet? It impacts everything that, massive energy deficit. Since energy is proportional to the square of the speed of light, because, what is light if you don't square it? It has to prove itself. It has to move. Having C would result in atoms containing only 25% of the energy they do now. The sun would produce 75%. I mean, it would reduce everything. Slow it down, reduce it. Things wouldn't go as far. The light would be too slow to sometimes escape gravity. You have bigger black holes, the whole thing. It's cray-cray. Warping would happen at much lower speeds. The simulation or the game would slow down. Then you'd really know it's a simulation in a game. Because you'd be able to experience, whoa, you'd be like, holy shit. If light traveled half the speed, a fast jet or even a high-speed train would represent a much larger fraction of C. What does that mean? In other words, they would experience, if you're on this is an interesting, it's interesting that that Gemini is bringing this up. Okay, folks, we're going to pause right here. We're breaking the fourth wall. Hey, it's Ja. What's going on? How you liking this episode? Kind of wild, right? And we're really going to get in the ether here if we haven't already. Again, keep your tinfoil caps on tight. Grab onto that heart-shaped balloon. It's going to be flying around. So let me interject real quick because what you're about, because I listened to this multiple times, I feel like I need to explain what you're about to hear. What you're about to hear is a description and of kind of my take on what went through Einstein's head when he was supposedly on a train, a speeding train, and was kind of looking at someone on the platform. A lot of stuff was going through his head. So 42 seconds into my description here, here's the answer. Not to the whole universe, but to why I kind of took it a direction where if you're a physician, one of those people who practices physics, what I'm about to say, you're instantly going to say, that's rubbish. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's not what Einstein was thinking. Nonsense. But here's the problem, folks. And if you're not a physician, you might just take what I say as, okay, a fact and move on. First of all, both of you, whether you're a physician or not, should never do that. Never take anything I say as fact until you validate it. And then even if it is fact, don't take it as truth because that's what you construct. Remember, I'm constructing a Lego set of thoughts because we're on our bellies. Don't take my Lego set and kind of start playing with it. You construct your own and figure it out for yourself and validate it. Only you can construct your own truth. Don't let me construct it for you. Make sense? So what am I saying in the next, 143, by the way, of this interjection? I love you. Understand what I'm about to say is a receiving of the transmission. of exactly what went through Einstein's head. You're like, that's ridiculous. How could you? And you weren't there. I wasn't. But when I access this higher level of thought, a higher consciousness, I'm drawing from, getting a transmission from, and that's the basis of this whole channel, folks. I get transmissions from somewhere. Joe Rogan calls it the muse. Take it. I don't know who wink wink it is. I have some ideas, but I know it's from another dimension. Because let me ask you a quick thought or a quick question for you to think about. Where do ideas come from? Well, where do babies come from? Well, from out there. And they get transferred into, well, the body somehow, and then it gets manifested into something tangible. An idea is no different than a baby. It comes from out there somewhere. It does not come from within. Even though a woman has eggs and a man has sperm and they mate together and they create the baby, literally everything starts as an idea, a thought, and works from there. Remember, there's information. That's potential energy. Then you do something with it, becomes knowledge, kind of lived experience and that kind of thing. It becomes kinetic. And then from that, you have a realization, an enlightenment. That's wisdom. That's kind of the byproduct of all that. Where does the idea fit? It's neither information, it's neither knowledge, and it's definitely not wisdom, though wisdom can be put back at X and starts in a new idea. Idea is the origin of all the energy. It's the purity of it all. The universe started as an idea. And one day, I will prove that, if I haven't already. It's the origin of all energy, somewhere over there. And if you believe the law of thermodynamics, which one? The one, I believe it's the first one, that talks about energy cannot be created nor destroyed. A sun does not create energy, neither does a star. They harness the energy. They are bestowed, given the gift of having energy, until they don't, and they collapse. And they are forgiving. Well, they give that energy without condition, outward. Kind of what we're supposed to do, right, Jesus? Where does that energy come from? Who knows? From the very beginning, out there. We don't create ideas in our heads. We receive them. Where do they come from? Tell them, Joe Rogan, from someplace else. That's where I get my transmissions from. I don't make this shit up, but then I have to translate them, and this is where I'll end here. I got a transmission that included the same energy or a similar version of the energy that went through Einstein's head when he experienced that experience that allowed him to do something with it and have wisdom that led to his theory of relativity. I was shared that same sequence of energy in the transmission. I just happened to relay it to you, the viewer, I'm about to, in a different way, because I had to go through my limited source of kind of the puppets, like in Plato's cave. I know I sound like I'm all over the place, but bear with me here. I know a little over 5 minutes in. I'll get back to the main story in a second. Because it's coming from another dimension, fifth or sixth dimension, into this dimension, the fourth dimension of consciousness, and I try to share it with you, and I have to use primitive code like words and, phrases and visuals. I'm limited to the code in this matrix. Much like the puppeteers in Plato's cave, I have to act it out for you and kind of attach, or else I could just send that same energy to you and telepathically without any loss of translation. You would understand it exactly the way I did. I'm like, oh, that's what Einstein thought? Cool. Now I get it. But because I had to convert that and use the words in my head to try to understand and translate what he got out of it, I'm in a different place than he was. He ended up creating the theory of relativity from the same energy that I received, and I'm just describing it in a different way. What does that mean? You'll understand. If you're a physician, you're going to hear the embellishment I put on top of it and say, nope, that's not at all what he said. But when you look deeper to the information or the sequence that I'm using to put my words on top of, you understand it's the identical same equation. You cannot dispute what I said. It might not be what specifically he said in the embellishments, because I don't know what he said to everyone else, to his peers. I know he talked about lightning and experiencing it one way and the other, and the moving on the train and blah, 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 blah. At the end, it's the same enlightenment, but it's experienced different. And there's a time dilation effect in there. That's the same thing I'm saying here. I just say it differently. Don't get confused by the dance that I use. pay attention to the movement of my energy, because it's the identical movement as Einstein's. And in a weird way, on the lit meta, I'm fortifying exactly what I am saying or I'm about to say in the next sequence right now. At the end of it all, folks, it's all about the energy and how we experience it, not the embellishments we put on top of it. Does that make sense? Listen, I got to go. I hope this interjection didn't become an impediment and we could get back to the love. Let me not get in the way of that. Cool? Unpause. Because as the story goes, Einstein, the impetus for the download that went into his head that created the theory of relativity was he was on a train and he was observing someone on the platform and he was envisioning trains zooming by at different speeds and how the individual on the platform observes him on the train and vice versa, how he observes the individual on the platform. And it led to, this is kind of what he's talking about. Passengers might experience noticeable time dilation, aging slightly slower than people on the ground, or see color shifts, Doppler effect, by driving down the highway. Because when you increase the speed at which you move, the energy's coming at you at a different rate than if you're standing on the platform. Einstein realized that. But he looked past the embellishment of the people and just let them be X's and Y's, observers, or equipment, receiving and giving energy. And he realized that if the one bowl on the platform, this is a bad analogy, I'm going to try, is collecting rainwater, energy is like rainwater, and it's eventually the bowl will fill up. But if you increase the speed on the train of which the water's falling because you're moving faster, in other words, you're almost scooping it up from a river, that bowl fills out a lot quicker, if not instant. Bad analogy, but I'm trying to, whatever. But you both end up with the same experience or the same water in the bowl. It's just you experience it different. It happened different. So if you fuck with the speed of light and the way the way the energy moves and the way we move, it's a whole thing. Video calls to Mars currently have a 3 to 22 minute delay. That's weird. Yeah, it depends where it is in orbit. To relation to the Earth. That delay would double, making interplanetary communication nearly impossible in real time. I say it's impossible now, but we'll go. Blah, blah, blah. The headlight effect, light from your surroundings would appear to bunch up in front of you. Okay, we get it. A smaller observable universe. So the speed of light has to be fast enough so you don't realize you're in an escape room. So you don't realize, It needs to separate, because if the speed of light went half, the distance between this would shrink. You would realize something very quick. So you got to get that speed quick enough, fast enough, get that play moving. If light moves half as fast, it can't outrun the expansion of space effectively. That's the other thing. Its speed also impacts everything else. There's a Lorentz factor, blah, blah, blah. And right here, all right, life as we know it is predicated on the speed of light being fast enough to pull from gravity, but not fast. Okay, it says here. It's basically saying, like, somewhere here it talked about black holes. Collapse. Oh, here we go. Nuclear fusion. Stars like our sun would produce 75% less energy. They would likely dim, cool, and potentially collapse under their own gravity because the outward radiation pressure would be too weak to balance the inward pull. Not enough light could escape. So then I write, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me life as we know it is predicated on the speed of light being fast enough to pull from gravity, but not so fast that it completely outruns it? Kind of a tortoise and hare thing? In a way, yes, but it's more about the balance of the energy. Okay. Than a race between light and gravity. Because remember, gravity doesn't have to race. It's already there. Light is the one that's moving, not gravity. It's just acting on all the things around it and making that stuff move. Gravity is what's holding the stage together. If the speed of light, and the speed of light is with the movement of everyone on that stage and everything else that happens around it. were significantly different, the fundamental forces to hold atoms together and power stars would shift, likely preventing life from forming at all. The pulling from gravity, escaping the black hole. Light is the cosmic speed. What does this all mean? You'll understand in a second. I'm kind of showing you proof that it's showing us this. We're fucked? Yeah, kind of. That we're on a stage. This is an escape room. We're inside of it. It's all proof. I'm showing you this proof that we're in here and there's something out there. It's all in these laws and the way stuff happens within this stage. An object becomes a black hole when its gravity is so strong that the escape velocity exceeds c. If we halved c, the radius at which an object collapsed into a black hole, the Schwarzschild whatever radius would become 4 times larger. Outrunning gravity, the structure of the universe. Light doesn't exactly outrun gravity. Again, it can't. Gravity's already there. It's everywhere. But its speed dictates how gravity propagates. In general relativity, gravity travels at the speed of light. Bullshit, it's already there. If c were infinite, because if it wasn't already there, in other words, how fast is the road? Well, how fast is the car on top of the road? I argue only as fast as it can be and is allowed to be by the road. That's light. Right, Einstein? The vessel traveling. Well, what's the train traveling on? The tracks. How fast are the tracks? It's not how fast the tracks are. It's how fast they allow the item on top of it to go. That's gravity. Gravity doesn't move. Stop it. Just because you think that in my iceberg analogy, the iceberg's moving. That's the one fucked up part of my iceberg analogy. That in real life, the iceberg moves. But imagine if the iceberg didn't move and the ocean moved instead. That's why some analogies fall flat. The real predictor, y'all get it? No? Okay. I'm getting really geeky here. You're losing me. It's okay. Okay. You ready? I had a little thing here. Let me just give myself a cue. Start here. A little hiccup here on the thing. An hour, 29 minutes in. So then I go, okay. In general relativity, gravity travels at the speed of light. Or is it that light is already there, but gravity's holding it back just enough to delay there? I'll say it one more time. In general relativity, gravity travels at the speed of light. Or is it that light is already there, but gravity's holding it back just enough to delay there? I just told you, it's actually the opposite. Gravity's already there. Light is traveling. I just corrected myself. Gravity's the road, the train tracks. Light is what's on top of it. That is a fascinating way to visualize it, but it's actually the first one. Gravity travels at the speed of light. In other words, it corrected me, but it used the wrong terminology. An hour and 30 minutes in. Gravity's the road. It's already there. And it adjusts and curves, and if light is like the vessel, it needs to conform to the road or the track. Gravity doesn't act as a brake on the light. Instead, gravity warps the track that light is running on. See, it even says the track. It's telling you the answer, folks. Gravity's already there. The universe is made up of tracks and roads and all this stuff for energy and everything else to pass through. A grid, if you will, like a grid matrix, like a city grid. And I hypothesize that, and I do later on this thing, that it's all just a bunch of cubes, a bunch of pixels that everything passes through. What do pixels do, kids? They render an environment, an experience. What do you hold in your hand that usually has pixels or renders in it? You know what I mean? I mean, it's all, come on, folks, it's all coming together. Gravity and light are teammates, not rivals. Yeah, the car needs the road and vice versa. You don't have the road unless you have something on top of it. A car, a truck, a vessel. Gravity and light, it's quarterback and center, I guess. Or, yeah, I was going to say quarterback and wide receiver. That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Think of space and time like a trampoline. If you roll a marble light across it, the marble follows. Again, we keep talking about fabric and this and rolling marbles and whatever and da-da-da. It's a car on a road. and a bunch of fucking roads in every direction, not just two. Well, it could be more than, it could be just two dimensions, but we'll go there later. Suddenly you drop a heavy bowling ball, a star, into the center. Then the ripple in the fabric moves outward. Or you know what? The roads move around big buildings in a city and up and around bridges and whatever it takes to get the energy where it needs to go. That's the universe, right? Bends and twists and whatever. What's making the energy here form the shape of the brain? The brain's not here. Well, gravity would be. Gravity would be creating the roads that you can't see, the pixels that allow this shape to exist and all the other shapes around it. It's right there, folks. And talks about if the sun vanished, the light goes out, the last photon emitted by the sun hits the earth, the orbit breaks, earth stops feeling, whatever. If gravity were holding light back, we would feel the gravity change before or after we saw the light go out. Since they both travel at sea, the news of the sun's disappearance reaches us simultaneously. So what it's saying is, if gravity, the road, was holding back the car, then we would feel the road hit us before the car, or something like that. Well, that's the road's not moving. Light in a vacuum is pure. Light only slows down when it passes through a medium. This is important. This is where it gets good. Like water or glass. Because it interacts with atoms. In the vacuum of space, gravity doesn't clog the path or create friction for the light. It just changes the geometry of the universe. Geometry. Even near a black hole, light is still moving at sea locally. It just has to travel in an infinite distance between the space being so severely warped. So I go, okay. You said light doesn't get delayed because gravity isn't pulling on it like a leash. Oh, because it doesn't get delayed because of that. Light gets delayed because I said then it's pulling on it like a leash, right? Light gets delayed because the path it has to travel has been stretched or curved like a road. Then you said, I said to Gemini, light only slows down when it passes through a medium like water or glass because it interacts with atoms. In the vacuum of space, gravity doesn't clog the path or create friction for light. I'm confused. So then you are saying that gravity is a particle? Light is an energy and can only be slowed down by a medium. So then gravity is a medium, right? The confusion arises because physics uses two different lenses to describe gravity, and they sound like they contradict each other because they do. Because they focus more as gravity as being a force because they don't know what it does. They're focusing on the force that propels the baseball without understanding the baseball. Now y'all get it? Or maybe the force of the bat on the baseball or the hand pushing the baseball, whatever. The medium lens. I still don't understand what this all means. I'm going to sum this up pretty quick because I'm not sure how much more I want to go here. Now, I know we wanted to go long here, but here's how it goes. I'm going to put this on screen for anyone that cares. You could read it. It's a graviton, which is nonsense. A hypothetical particle. The gravity's not a particle, at least not on this side of the existence. Not on this side, inside. Maybe on the outside, but not on this side. It talks about the relationship between gravity and blah, 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 yada, yada. Think of it this way. Light is the runner. Space-time is the track. There you go. Now you get it. And gravity is the person. No. Gravity's the track. Space-time is how the track moves without moving. Now y'all get it? You got this wrong. It's so simple, folks. It's so simple. Just allow me to let you think about it for a moment. You'll get it. Light is the runner. Gravity's the track. Space-time is making the track move without moving. Because the runner, if you're experiencing it from the runner's point of view, you ain't moving. You're in the room while everything else around you is happening, creating this. But if you are the person on the, in other words, from your perspective, you're the one that's on the platform of the train station. You ain't moving. You're watching everything else move. But if you're the guy on the train, you're watching the platform guy move. It's all a matter of perspective. So I'll say it one more time. light is the runner that's not moving. If you're the one that's the runner, everything else is moving. The track is moving. That's space-time. But it's not really moving. Gravity's the track. And what keeps you on the track and allows you to move, or allows everything around you to move, because you never move. You're always what you are. You're in one place. You're here in your brain, creating the environment around you, the escape room. You never move. Everything else moves around you, even if you move. But the only way you could prove that you move is have someone else observe you moving, like the track, right, Einstein? Yeah. I wrote, you said the conflict currently, our best theory of gravity, general relativity, says it's just curved space, not a particle. Then what is curved space? If it is most likely not a particle or a medium, then it must be somewhere between a pure energy and a plasma, right? This is where physics gets real trippy. Curved space isn't, well, we're going to end here and pick it up again because I've got to introduce you to somebody. This is going to get interesting because I'm going to start touching on something. I think the next episode is going to get really geeky and we'll just have to go right into it. Because I argue, once you unlock gravity, it's like the cosmological or cosmetological equivalent of fixing a nose. Like, what? Listen to what I'm saying. We'll end on this. If you could decode what gravity is and truly understand it, once you figure that out, you then have to embrace this. The fifth dimension, and the fact that we are in a room with something else outside and we can't escape it. And the fact that we might just be in a game, an escape room. Because once you understand gravity and you can unlock it, you realize that it's like an iceberg and the majority of it is outside, creating the space that we're in. And you could then definitively prove that the universe is within a space. And it might be just a brain, God's brain. We are literally a thought, a holographic, no different than the thoughts you have in your head. They're all holographic. That the universe is this. And unlocking gravity is literally the key that gets you there. It allows you to escape. Pick a door.
You have reached the end. Game over.